Hey everybody, this is Marian Cowie-Gowan.
And this is David Owen.
And this is You Show Me Yours, the podcast where a married couple talks about the movies and television that they loved before the first date. And today I was made to watch Lake Mungo.
As part of the Spooktacular.
Ooh.
Yes, the final movie of the Spooktacular. Lake Mungo is our mock documentary, since you don't like me using the word mockumentary.
No, I feel like this is definitely not a mockumentary because it's not funny.
I don't think mockumentaries are inherently funny.
Okay,
I think mockumentary is just short for mock documentary.
Okay, well.
So I will say mock documentary.
A mock doc. All right. Well, all the mockumentaries I've seen are funny. So
now you've seen a mockumentary that's not funny.
Okay.
And with aspects of found footage, and that this is our trope. You know, this is in the category of the Blair Witch Project. Another excellent movie that I considered showing, which is The Taking of Deborah Logan, and other found footage style movies that have happened over the years. Cloverfield, that's the other big one I was trying to think of. And Lake Mungo is, of course, the 2008 Joel Anderson directed Australian mock documentary horror thriller drama movie. Joel Anderson, interestingly enough, never directed again after this. Has had a few credits in Hollywood. The thing about this movie, before we get going, is like, this is your favorite horror director's favorite movie. Okay. Jordan Peele is on record as saying this might be his favorite horror movie of all time. Hill House.
Mike Flanagan.
Mike Flanagan is also on record as saying this is in his top three.
Okay, interesting, because I saw some parallels there. But
yeah. So this is one of those things. It's like this was at school. All of the funniest people in school thought I was funny.
Yeah.
I am the Lake Mungo of Trinity High School circa 1997. Like the class clowns and stuff, like the popular class clowns.
Okay.
All thought I was funny.
Okay.
Like would talk to me about stuff and joke with me in the off time and stuff. And this movie is that. This movie is the 1997 David Owen of film, of horror film.
Okay.
Yeah. So if you haven't seen Lake Mungo, don't listen to this because it'll spoil everything about it. Lake Mungo is a mock documentary, a fake-umentary, a fockumentary.
Oh, God, don't call it that one.
That follows the tragic events of an Australian family who loses their daughter and then subsequently find out a bunch of stuff that they didn't know about her, and also maybe there's ghosts. One thing I will say, and I feel like this is maybe so you did not like this movie.
I wouldn't say I didn't like it. I didn't love it.
Okay.
I didn't hate it either.
One of the things that people get caught up on in this movie is the ghost stuff. I think the ghost stuff is by far the least important part of this movie. Anything to do with the ghost footage that the son Matthew records, or the final reveal, which we'll talk about later. I think that is the least interesting and least important part of this movie. I think everything else about this movie is far more interesting than the ghost stuff. The existential sort of dread of it all, the understanding that people are the people that you don't know them, you know the face that they present to you, and they present a different face to different people. So no one ever really knows anyone, and who do you really know, and who really knows you? All these sorts of questions I think are far more interesting than any of the ghost stuff. The ghost stuff is intentionally ambiguous. This movie is not here to say ghosts are real, as much as it is to say, here's some weird footage. And the thing about this movie is one of the first reveals of this movie is that there is Alice dies. She drowns at a reservoir, and when she's found, the father identifies her, and the mother doesn't. And in some sort of misguided but good intentioned attempt to get the body exhumed so that it can be DNA identified, so that the mother will perhaps have a chance to correct the regret she has about not having a final goodbye. The son, Matthew, fakes pictures and video of Alice in and around their house. And that's the reveal, that he fakes those videos. So the first thing we get is we get this. I mean, again, this movie is, considering again that Joel Anderson, this movie was a failure on release, and only later, only about 10 years later, did it, 8 or 10 years later, did it start to kind of get given its proper respect.
Sure.
So by that time, Anderson was, well out of that. I think he did some work on Late Night with the Devil, that movie we watched with the talk show in the 70s where the girl is possessed. He did like some script supervision work, like not even writing, not directing, not second unit. He literally was just the guy that was like, well, in the shot before, he's Australian. Oh, in the shot before, no, that's Michael Caine.
I don't know what that is.
Wait, I got to get into my, no, in the shot before, no. So script supervision, like this might be one of the greatest tragedies of like motion pictures, right? But the way that they lay this in and they sort of lead up to the photos is great. They just have clips of the family saying, "Oh, we're hearing strange sounds," and then the dad talks about a vision he had of Alice appearing, and then the photos start to come. The way they lead into it's just great, because at the beginning of this just sounds like any other documentary. Like Netflix makes 10 of these a week, and it's so. And again, this is before Netflix was making 10 of these a week. It's so well done. That documentary part of it is so well done. Like it really does feel like just another churned out Netflix documentary about some true crime thing. And the first watch, when you're watching it, because it so much feels like one of these mass produced true crime documentaries, you're just thinking like, okay, the brother killed her.
Yeah.
Okay, the dad was abusing her.
Yeah.
You're just going through all these things that you would have seen on a Netflix true crime documentary, and then they flip it around. It's really well done. And the ghost stuff, I think, again, is perhaps the least interesting thing. And so, again, because the movie is very deliberate in saying Matthew faked this stuff. Matthew is the son. We're dealing with June, the mother, Russell, the father, Matthew, the son. And that's pretty much the only characters we need to name, except for Ray, who comes in later, who is like a radio psychic that gets involved. They lay this down that basically like every bit of ghost stuff now is suspect.
Yeah.
Because we know Matthew faked it at some point, right? There is later ghost footage that it's claimed Matthew couldn't have faked, but if he faked the previous stuff, who's to say? Yada yada yada. But I am much more interested in everything else that goes on in this movie besides the ghost stuff. I think the ghost stuff is it's a great reveal at the end. But yeah, I think the actual goings on in this movie are so much more interesting than the ghost stuff. So the thing that I thought that you might, because last week I famously said I talked a lot and you would maybe talk this week. The thing I thought you might seize on in this movie is the maternal relationship. Sort of, I put on the board maternal curse ? There is this unraveling thread in the movie of Alice's relationship with June was perhaps not great, certainly not as good as June wanted it to be, and June's relationship with her mother was not as good as she wanted it to be. And there's a point where they're all three, there are pictures of all three of them, and it's kind of looks very awkward when the three of them are together. Alice is always like happily putting on a face, but like the other two are kind of awkward looking. Because as we learn, Alice is very good at putting on the outward facade of happiness.
Sure.
She's learned that lesson very, very happy. And even June's mother says that her mother was the same way, is passing this down. And everything that happens with Alice almost feels like this maternal curse, like finally coming home to roost. This inability for each generation of women to relate with their mother and to bond with their mother and to break that chain, because whether it's maternal or paternal, that sort of emotional unavailability is a chain that kind of repeats itself, not absent, but distant fathers and mothers create distant fathers and mothers. And I thought that might resonate with you. It's not a huge focus of the movie, but I do think it's like a vital pivot point of the movie, or like something that the movie sort of pivots upon. Because again, if you've not seen this movie, what is revealed in the end is that Alice had recorded a vision of her own bloated, drowned corpse on a class trip to Lake Mungo. And this freaked her out so much that she buried her phone and her favorite bracelet, like her prized possessions that she had on her, in this sort of like burial ritual.
It's like a sacrifice.
Almost, yeah. To try to maybe, pacify this spirit or whatever. But that she essentially sees her own death, and from that moment, her own dead body, and from that moment forward, she knows that she's going to die. But she has become so accustomed to the distance between her and her mother that she can't even talk about this with her parents. That there is this distance that exists between them, that even though she is struggling, that she can't open up in what should be the safest relationship that she has with a daughter and her mother, and that she can't open up and tell her like something weird happened. And I really think I really think something bad's going to happen to me. There's some great voiceover of Alice saying, I feel like something bad's going to happen to me. I feel like something bad has already happened, and I'm just waiting for it to catch up with me.
Yeah, I thought that was striking, the way that she phrased it there.
Yeah, and so I think it's a really interesting dynamic there. I think all of the characters, so for me, I thought that might resonate with you. For me, the thing that resonates is Russell, the father character. There are some lines where on this second watch, this is my second time watching this movie, like I teared up. Like there is a point early on where they're talking about the first night when the rescuers sent them home. And Russell says, that night I left the light on. I still leave the light on. And the interviewer's like, why? And he's like, well, she might come home. Yeah. And by now, at this point in the movie, at this point in the recording, she's long dead. Like, so this is a talking head documentary interview, presumably taking place after most or all of the events that are depicted in the movie. So he knows she's not coming home, because not only this is before we, the audience, know she's dead for sure. Although, we basically know, not only by the point that he's leaving the porch light on, or by he's recounting this story and he's still leaving the porch light on months later.
And presumably it's a different porch light.
Yes, because at the end of the movie they do move. He has already identified her body, had her body exhumed and DNA tested her body. He knows beyond a shadow of a doubt that she's dead, but it's that sort of, father, it's illogical. Yeah. And it doesn't make any sense. And Russell is very much this sort of stereotypical sort of, Gen X raised by silent generation father who is, he's not emotional. We hear like a recounting that he maybe cried one time after that vision of Alice in her room after she died. But he's rare. He rarely seems on the verge of emotion during his interviews. That point with talking about the light, there's a moment, there's a beat. And the thing I love about this movie and the way they do it is they linger just a little bit longer than is comfortable on some of these shots. When someone says something poignant, they let that dead air kind of sit, whereas a sleeker documentary editor would cut right after that moment, maybe cut to something to illustrate, some aspect of that comment, but it just lingers for about three or 4 seconds of Russell just like kind of awkwardly waiting for the next question or whatever. And they do that quite a few times. But yeah, he resonates with me, of course, because that is raised without a father, me being raised without a strong father, but raised with a strong father figure who was still a stoic, emotionless, for everything that my grandfather did for me, he was not emotional, and he was not emotionally available, so to speak, but still was filling a very vital role in my life. I very much feel that, right? There's a point where Russell is talking and Russell is saying, he's talking about going to identify the body. And he says that he went in and he did it because that's a father's role. That's what they're supposed to do. That he left his wife in the car and he went in to see the hideous bloated corpse of his daughter because that's what a father does.
Yeah.
And go ahead.
That part was striking too. And I remember thinking, what would I do in that situation? Would I just sit in the car? I don't think I would. I don't think I could leave that to you.
Yeah.
Both because I don't know. I think we would share that burden.
I mean, I hope so. But at the same time, I am much like Russell would be willing to take it on.
Yeah.
For the family, because I have that in me. I have that. I fight against that sort of emotionless, stoic, emotionally unavailable father figure. But I still, those are the examples of fatherhood that were given to me. My father was emotionally unavailable for many other reasons besides being stoic. But that was my grandfather. He was not, and go ahead. Sorry.
Yeah. Well, sorry. I didn't mean
No, you're not
to interrupt. I think both of us would describe ourselves as having a fairly egalitarian marriage and parenting setup.
Sure.
But we often fall into the stereotypical gender roles.
Yeah.
And then you sort of don't realize that until maybe you're in a moment like that, though. Oh, well, this is his job. Wait a minute. No, it's not.
Right.
So anyway, that was an interesting thought process.
And just the juxtaposition between the ways that the mother and father process it, staying on Russell, Russell is immediately back at work. And even his coworker, is just like, it was kind of weird that he just didn't talk about it. He came right back to work. He just poured himself back into his work. And again, that is Russell doing what is expected of the father, right? Like, okay, this happened. This is horrible. I don't have time right now to emotionally process this because somebody's got to pay the rent. Somebody's got to put food on the table.
Yeah.
It is this, to my mind, outdated, but, this generations long sort of parental responsibility thing that he is living up to, and he's using it as a means to avoid dealing with things, emotionally, because he can't. He's got work to do.
Yeah, I thought about that too. It didn't say how long he was out of work, but I was thinking of my mom's funeral and how, I went back to work after a week and they said, oh, take as long as you need. But then they also had said, well, typically bereavement leave is 4 days. And, so but also I was like, what else am I going to do? Sit here and feel horrible?
Yeah.
Or, so I kind of wondered, oh, wait a minute. Did I take too long? Not enough? What did it, but that's different. That's a parent versus a child. And
and there was a lot, I think, Russell had a lot more to process.
Yes.
Yeah. And then June, the mother, on the other hand, starts having these nightmares, and is so troubled by them that she doesn't want to sleep. So she gets up and walks in the night,
Mm-hmm.
and then she enters people's neighbors' houses so that she can essentially pretend that she's participating in like a normal life again.
Mm-hmm.
Which is another striking way to process the grief. And I think they all have their arc. Matthew's arc, in part, is faking the ghost footage
Mm-hmm.
to give his family like some kind of hope. And again, I think explicitly he says to get the body exhumed so that his mother can have some closure.
Yeah.
Because he's watching her. It's a known thing. Other talking heads in the friends and family surrounding them are like, June is walking into people's houses. Like, it was a known thing in the neighborhood that this was happening.
The brother was older, right? Older than Alice.
I think
because I feel like at some point it's his birthday and they say happy 21st or something. And Alice was 16.
Yeah. There's a picture at one point of young Alice, and she is with what you would think is supposed to be Matthew, and he's smaller than her. But yeah, I think he is older.
Okay. Because that feels like a young teen's awkward attempt to do something.
Yeah.
By the time you're 19, 20, 21, I would think you would understand that faking the footage is not a solution to anything. Not that at that age you
perhaps. Can
fix it. You don't really have the gravitas to say to your parents, okay, you need grief counseling. If that was even a thing.
Well, and I don't think any yet. I think the thing is, again, like we're in 2008. This is so 2008 release date, 2005 is when Alice dies.
Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, that sort of stuff was on its way, but wasn't really quite as mature as it is now with, spotting grief and analyzing.
But even so, I'm saying a 19, 20-year-old can't really say that to their parents.
Yeah.
But they're old enough to know that faking footage is not the solution either. So I was surprised that
perhaps. I think it just feels like a youthful transgression. Like, and I just feel like, and he seems pretty sheltered. He's still living at home. He's,
this is a pretty small town.
In a small town, doesn't seem to have a lot of responsibilities. So I mean, it just feels like a sort of an immature, youthful transgression to do that sort of thing, and to not like just to be so focused on the result that you don't understand that the means that you're using to get there are wholly inappropriate.
Yeah.
But the whole. I mean, that's why I say I think the ghost stuff's the least interesting, because all of this to me is far more interesting. The portrait of how a father processes this, the portrait of how a mother processes this, the maternal, like familial repetition of emotional unavailability to your daughter, this inability to form a bond. Again, like I said, feeling like this is the ultimate sort of end of that sort of curse of like, it's so bad that now this is the result of it. So
well, to answer your question about if you thought that would resonate with me, I don't know. I think of parents through the generations not so much as echoing the same things generation after generation, but it's a bit of a pendulum. You swing one way, the next generation swings the other, and sometimes you swing all the way to the end of the arc and sometimes just a little bit. And, you're always adjusting, doing a little more or a little less of the things that your parents did in all these different slices of parenting. And so I don't know, I had a complicated relationship with my mom, and I think she had a somewhat complicated relationship with her mom, but I think I am much more emotionally available to our son than my mom was to me, maybe. And I don't have a daughter, so maybe, I don't know. But that did not resonate with me in the same way. I mean, the idea of like, complicated, things do, echo is not the right word. They do show up again and again.
Yeah.
but I didn't. I guess I'm seeing myself more as the June in this situation because I am a mother of a teenager and thinking, oh well, no, I didn't pass that on in the same way that she apparently did.
And I didn't necessarily mean it would resonate because it directly parallels your life, because the Russell doesn't directly parallel my life. Sure. But I can look at that and I understand that everything that Russell is doing, and maybe maybe this might not be true for you, but as a father, every decision I make as a father is fighting against the nurture or lack thereof that was put into me. Yeah. So I'm a first time, I feel like I'm a first generation father because I have a handful of positive things that came from my grandfather, but I don't have anything. And every parental, fraternal instinct I have is bad. And so I look at Russell and understand that unchecked, that's me. If I just sort of did the things that sort of naturally come, if I was as unemotionally available as my dad, that's me, that's Russell. And if I just repeated that, so me parenting is constantly thinking about how I was parented by my father figures, and then thinking like, yes, but that was not good. And I need to do something different. And that's why Russell resonates, because Russell is the me that just followed those instincts.
I don't know. I don't think you're giving him enough credit. I mean, I think the way that he handled this grief was a more stoic manner, but that is not to say that he was emotionally unavailable during his family's happier times.
Well, I think the movie demonstrates that on some level he was, because Alice doesn't feel comfortable talking to him about any of the secrets that she has. So like,
true. There's plenty of things I wouldn't talk to my dad about either, and I don't think he was necessarily emotionally unavailable.
Sure, but that's just what I'm saying is that, and even if Russell is not like some 50s dad, like he is the Gen X version of some 50s dad. You know, he is he's making the mistakes that lead to, whether he's doing it intentionally or not, he's making the mistakes that lead to repeating that cycle. You know, responding by pouring himself into work, probably being a little bit standoffish about girl stuff, telling her to talk to her mom about it, and then her mom not being emotionally available to talk about it. You know, so I mean, we're not really shown enough to say anything definitively, but in the broad strokes that we're shown, I feel like everything that we're meant to know about Russell is that he has his place in their life, is because this is the thing, right? There are moments in the movie that were shown, family videos and stuff, where they all seem happy. But that's the thing, right? That's the thing about dysfunction. And that's, I think, one of the like theses of this movie is that things are not what they appear. Alice is very good at pretending to be happy. Maybe Russell is very good at pretending to be happy. June is maybe very good at pretending to be an attentive mom, but clearly not enough, you know? So yeah, I think that that's one of the main ideas here, is that like the parenting is what happens when you're not really looking, when you're not in front of the camera. Your life is what happens when no one's looking, when especially the people you love the most are not looking. And you end up with this secret life underneath. And I think, you know, for me, I infer the same thing about the parents, that not that they have these secrets, but that they are, when we don't see them, when they're not giving talking head interviews about their, you know, lost child, that they are probably not the best parents. And I don't mean like they're bad parents. I mean, yeah, there's a great shot in the movie. It's Alice and June together, and Alice is smiling and laughing, and so is June. And then they separate, and the moment that they separate, Alice keeps smiling and keeps laughing, and June stops smiling and stops laughing and looks away. It's like this moment that June she is putting it on right until she doesn't need to. When Alice isn't looking, June is back to, and I feel like that's something that permeates the whole movie for me, is that everybody is doing a performance for the people around them, and that they're not showing their real selves. But yeah, I don't think the parents are bad, because like for all of the negative stuff I can say about my dad, I think if you looked at it on paper, you would be like, well, that doesn't seem like a bad father, but he wasn't giving me any of the things I needed. As a father, like he wasn't abusive. He rarely ever raised his voice to me. We spent time together, even though it wasn't always quality time. Like that's the thing. You would see like, well, hey, this guy's picking this kid up every weekend, 4 weekends a month. And he's voluntarily paying some kind of child support. Granted, it was incredibly low, but then you dig past that to the point where no one's looking, and you realize that half of the time that my dad was picking me up, especially when I was younger, he was going to my aunt's and doing drugs while I ran like Lord of the Flies with my cousins.
Yeah.
And ran to our hustler stump
I think
read Hustlers.
Yeah, there's sins of commission, like things that you do that are sinful, and sins of omission, as in you didn't do the thing that you should have done.
Yeah.
And then what is it? The Chris Rock routine? I'm a good dad. I love my kids. Congratulations. You're supposed to. Like, yeah, like he never hit you and he paid $25 a month. Like, great. But not to go down the road of my feelings about your dad, but
sure. Yeah. But yeah, I think it's that kind of thing. Like if you were to, because in the beginning of the movie, everybody talks about the family, the Palmer family, as this like prototypical happy family. And what you find out throughout the movie is that they weren't. Alice wasn't happy. June wasn't happy. Russell was there, and Matthew was the kind of kid who would think that faking ghost pictures would help healing in his parents, in his mother. So I think what you learn over time is that if anyone had said, name the most normal family on the block, people would have said the Palmers. And by the end of this documentary, you understand that they were actually dysfunctional behind the scenes, and not even they understood how dysfunctional they were.
Well, I don't know. I think after a loss, everybody is dysfunctional.
Well, but that's not what I'm talking about. After a loss.
I know, but we don't see very much of them from before. So I
think we see a lot of them from before.
Well, you don't.
That's what I'm saying. Like, just so this is a movie of twists and reveals, right? Yeah. And one of the big reveals is that Alice is having a sexual relationship with the neighbors who she babysits for, and there's a videotape of it.
Yes. Well, I don't know. So much of this footage here is so grainy and hard to read, and you can see things in it that you want to see, and it doesn't help that there's close-ups on grainy footage, which is even more. And
what is that? I'm not sure what
it was hard to tell from that brief shot what type of relationship that was.
What was
her relationship with the couple? I'm not saying it. I'm not denying that it was sexual, but I don't know. It looked to me like it was.
I mean, I feel like you're going down a road. My point is that happened to her, and even if they got her drunk and took advantage of her, she didn't feel comfortable enough telling her parents about that.
Well, sure, I wouldn't either.
But I'm saying either it was consensual and she wanted it, or she was assaulted. And either one of those scenarios, she didn't tell her parents about it. So either she was capable of doing something that they would have never expected her to be capable of in a consensual relationship, or she was taken advantage of in an assault.
Well,
And either way, she didn't feel comfortable revealing that.
and that's an important distinction, and we're unable to tell which it is.
Right. But I would not consider a parental relationship where either of those things is true and the child does not feel like that's something they can reveal to be super healthy, right? Like, I don't think any of us want to believe that the child that we're raising would be so would lead this secret life and be so afraid to tell us about it, right? Or so afraid to ask us, like, hey, is this appropriate?
Mm-hmm.
That sort of thing. Like, so there's some gap there that Alice feels like let's assume it was consensual, because we don't have enough evidence, I think, to say anything else. That is not something that her parents think she's capable of. And if you are raising your child and you have erred to that degree where they are doing something that you don't think in a million years they'd be capable of, something was missed along the way. And I think that's the kind of the point of this family, is that something is missed along the way many times that leads to Matthew being in the state that he's in, June in the state that she's in, Russell in the state that he's in.
I don't know. You could argue that the process of growing up and maturing is having a secret life that your parents don't know about. Not to that degree, but
right.
You stop telling your parents everything.
Sure. I mean, I think that that's possible. But,
being in a polycule with your much older neighbors is extreme. I'm not denying that.
Yes. But so I'm saying, like, I feel like there is something that happened to put her there. And that is, I think, her not getting the affection that she needs at home and seeking it out in a misguided way somewhere else. She sees this family. She's been babysitting for them for a few years. She sees how happy they seem. She observes them as parents. She thinks that they have this possibly idyllic and then this is creating all this out of whole cloth. I'm just speculating. She sees this couple that she's, been babysitting for these years. She sees them providing for their children what she wishes her parents had provided for her, maybe specifically the mother being emotionally available. And they seize on that one way or the other. Mm-hmm. She succumbs to that, whatever the case may be. But it feels like that is an indicator, or should be an indicator, that she was missing something. And they were offering something that she couldn't get at home.
That's possible. I feel like it requires a lot of filling in gaps that you may or may not be doing correctly.
Of course. That's the thing that I think is great about this movie, right? Because we can speculate. Like, all that we know factually is this is a thing that happened. Mm-hmm. And that the neighbors knew it was bad enough that they broke into the house to try to find the tape of it. Mm-hmm. We know that for whatever reason, she had the tape, as Russell speculates, possibly because she didn't want them to have it. Mm-hmm. Maybe she had it to keep it as some sort of leverage over them. Who knows?
Well, yeah, there's so many maybes that I find myself going, okay, I can't draw any firm conclusions about this, so I don't.
Yeah, that's a beautifully made film, right? Like,
is it? You know how much I love ambiguity.
Oh yeah, because it's one of the things that I think this movie does well is it focuses on the questions that we can't answer. Because when someone dies and they're left behind, and you're left behind, and you start to unravel the secret life that you didn't know exists, even if it's just like, even if you take out that subplot with the Tuohys, with the neighbors, even if it's just the fact that she had a premonition of her own death, you start to unravel this secret life, and you start to think as a parent, where did I go wrong that my daughter had a premonition of her own death and for 2 weeks didn't feel comfortable, or months or whatever it was, didn't feel comfortable telling me about it or talking to me about it, to the point where, and this is as good a time as any to introduce Ray, she got a one-on-one with a radio psychic because she was so uncertain about her future. Like, she felt so unable to talk to her parents that she went to like a local quack psychic. Like, to me as a parent, watching that is like, I would feel like I messed up. And I think that that's the again, like that was the original point of that whole little section that I was, is this idea of these uncertain things, that as you start to unravel these things, it's not that you examine the person's life and choices, you examine your life and choices that contributed to them making that choice. And as a parent, that hits hard, like.
Well, I mean, yes, I get the feeling of why couldn't my child tell me this thing? But I think that is a very common human experience, to have a big, potent, emotional, scary experience, and you can't tell the people you're closest to. You tell people who you're not emotionally attached to at all.
Maybe.
Or you tell them first to kind of to gauge reactions, or to practice saying it, or to, I don't know, that I get that the parental response would be, why didn't you tell me? But I also understand why she would not want to tell her parents, at least right away, and talk to somebody else about it.
And
instead.
I think that is potentially the difference between us. If that had happened to me, at that age, my mother would have been the first person I told that to. No question. Like, I would have immediately, I trusted her completely and relied on her counsel completely, and would have ran to tell her that, not hidden it, not tried to process it on my own, not, called a radio psychic. I would have rushed to speak to her about it.
Okay. I don't think.
That's what I'm just saying. I think
know.
that's a difference in our life experiences. I think, and maybe that's a male-female thing. Maybe that's a mother-son thing. I don't, but I'm saying, like, that's why when I see this, that's the way I analyze it, right? Because I don't want to raise a child that wouldn't, whose first instinct wouldn't be to tell me. Like, I hope that I'm raising a child whose first thought would be, I got to talk to my parents about this.
Well, I think it depends on what you anticipate the reaction being. Because if you think, oh, my parents are going to be really upset for me, and then there's going to be just so much noise and so much to manage, and I don't want that yet. I'm going to tell this person who isn't emotionally involved with me and will just respond more quietly, I guess. I don't know. I don't think it's necessarily a sign of a bad relationship with your parents to not want to tell them this stuff right away.
I'm not saying that it is. What I'm saying is, I'm not saying that it is a sign of a bad relationship. What I'm saying is, if it happened to me, it would be a sign of a bad relationship. It would say to me that I failed. Because what I would, at that age, what I would have thought is that my mother is going to be safe. She's going to support me. So there's a moment that I think is one of the best moments in this movie that kind of gets overlooked. Russell is talking about his experience seeing this apparition of Alice come into the room, and she doesn't know he's there, and then he makes a noise and she gets angry at him and he runs out and he gets upset. And they're talking to Russell's coworker, and they ask him what he thinks about that, and he says, I believe Russell saw something. I believe that he experienced something real. If he says he saw a ghost, I believe he saw a ghost. Or I certainly believe he thinks he saw a ghost. And he kind of ends it by saying, whether it's a real ghost or not, we'll never know. And that's the reaction I would expect from my mother. I would expect her to believe me, to comfort me, not to question my the authenticity of my claim, not to create noise around it, to just be there and to be a source of emotional support. in that same way of that coworker saying, I believe him. He's not the kind of guy that would lie. I believe that he saw something. You know, he believes he saw something, so I believe he saw something.
Mm-hmm.
And that's what I think my mother would do, and that's what I strive to do, and to be. Like I hope, and I don't know that I've been successful in this, but I hope that would be the first thing that our son would think. Like, okay, there was this thing, and I want to go to my parents because I know that they will support me first and foremost.
Well, people offer support in different ways, and some support that you want is different than other times. Like I think both you and I would react with a lot of talking, and that might not be what somebody wants.
Well, so here's the thing. I think we react with a lot of talking when the thing is something you can talk about, right? When if he's coming to us and saying, I recorded a video of my dead bloated corpse and I think it means I'm going to die. I don't think we would be like, well, you know, you can't record a ghost. Ghosts aren't real. It certainly wasn't your dead body. Why did you bury your phone in the dirt? Now we have to buy you a new phone. Like that's not the way we would go. But anyway,
I have no idea how I would respond, and I hope I never know how I would respond, because that's all very troubling.
Agreed. Yeah. So Ray is an interesting character in this movie. Ray is another character. This movie is just full of characters making like questionably poor decisions.
Yeah.
Matthew makes his poor decision. June makes her poor decision to go into other people's houses. But go ahead.
Question about Ray. I kept being reminded of Harvey Keitel in Holy Smoke. He's the deprogrammer.
Yeah.
Just in the fact that there's an Australian connection, and he is in this charged interaction with a teenage girl, and that has possibly inappropriate moments, but
I don't know. I think you're coughing up a lung over there. I did not get that at all.
Not to that extent, but I just kept thinking about Harvey Keitel. That's all.
Okay. Yeah. I think Ray seemed.
No, he was way above board.
Very clearly did this a lot, and you know. So first off, Ray is a shyster. The funniest part about Ray is, so Ray is a psychic that goes on he does cold readings essentially on the radio. And it's all stuff like someone's going to come back into your life and they're going to mean a lot to you and they've been gone and they're going to be back. And like everybody has that.
Yeah.
You know, he does these cold reading style readings. And he says things, you know, in his talking head moments of like, oh, there are ghosts everywhere. There are ghosts everywhere. And they do a seance. And when they do a seance, this is one of the times that Matthew fakes ghost footage. And Ray says in his talking head interview about that, he says, I was shocked. Like, I've never seen a ghost before. Like, you're a psychic who purports to talk with the dead. And you're telling me that you're freaked out by, you know, like you said, a grainy image.
Well, by seeing one.
But he didn't see it. He only saw a video of it.
Well, okay.
But that's what I'm saying. Like, he shouldn't be freaked out. I think personally that is in there to give an indication that Ray is a fraud. That he is essentially, he has been pretending to speak with the dead, and now he's actually seen what seems at the time like compelling evidence of a ghost, and he is freaked out by it. Why would someone who regularly speaks with the dead be freaked out by a ghost? And he even says in another segment, ghosts are everywhere around us. Like, yes, well, and sure. you were freaked out when you saw a video of one. Like, sure. What's going on? But yeah, so the way that Ray comes into the movie is that June meets with him. She hears him on the radio. He's well known in the area, apparently. And his sort of side hustle, or his main hustle, the radio is his side hustle. His main hustle is meeting with people who have lost someone, and essentially, you know, telling them, oh, your loved one is safe. They're in the light.
They love you. They're in a better place.
They love
blah,
you.
blah,
They
blah, blah, blah,
said,
blah.
Geemaw loves you too, and Peepaw, and everybody's there, and your dog Rusty is there, and all these things. And he travels around the Australian countryside, setting up in these motel rooms and doing these sessions. And he has dozens of tapes of these taped sessions that he's done. And that's how he's introduced into the movie, that June goes and she has a reading. And I don't think it initially does a whole lot for her. She kind of just, it doesn't bring her like a ton of closure, but she likes what she feels better after doing it. And then ends up inviting him to the house. And then they do a sort of a spontaneous, or they're not spontaneous. They do a seance after he's kind of gotten himself sort of into the family, where and Russell is naturally skeptical of it. All of the family at one point or another say they don't believe in ghosts or the supernatural stuff. And they're not religious. There's a point made that one of the friends is like, we didn't know what to do for June because she doesn't go to church. We didn't know how to comfort her. Like, if the only thing you have is she's in a better place because God, like, you can do better than that.
Well,
like, that's...
Speaking as a semi-religious person, that is not enough, because you're like, they may be in a better place, but I don't want them there. I want them here.
Yeah. And so the ultimate reveal of Ray is that Ray had previously met with Alice. And like we said earlier, Alice, after having the encounter at Lake Mungo, goes to Ray and kind of has a reading with him. And Ray chooses not to reveal this, and he says he's keeping her confidentiality even after her death, and that he thought that he wouldn't be able to help the Palmers if they knew that he had met with Alice. But it comes out anyway that he does, because when they discover essentially this little safe deposit box kind of deal, firebox that she keeps her secret life in, including the tape with the Tuohys and her diary, they find Ray's card in there. Again, another poor decision. But the thing I love about all of these is that they read as, people will say like, hey, if you encounter someone in life and they're not, perfect, hey, it's their first time living too, cut them some slack.
Yeah.
It feels like that. It feels like these are people that are that in some cases, like Matthew and Ray, have good intentions. They just haven't thought them through. And I think it makes the characters so much more human to have these, like, to be making these just like bad decisions. Like, they're not nefarious. They're not, they have no ill intent. Like we see, Ray doesn't have anything to hide. He didn't have some secret relationship with Alice. He just thinks that if they know that he met with Alice, it'll just become about his sessions with Alice, and he won't be able to make any progress for them. Because I think Ray believes, I call him a shyster, I call him but I think he believes he's helping people. I think he believes that it's one of those, the ends justify the means. He believes by pretending that he's talking to people's dead relatives, it gives them some closure. They walk out feeling better, and even says this, that people walk out feeling more positive. And even June, to a certain extent, has that experience. I think he feels justified in what he's doing because of that. And I think that makes the characters, the bad decisions and what you might call like weird writing or weird choices in the writing, I think actually make the characters so much more authentic and like human.
He's kind of like Whoopi Goldberg's character in Ghost, who from the beginning is a shyster, and she knows she's a shyster, and then all of a sudden, oh my gosh, I really can communicate with ghosts, and she facilitates this whole thing. Not to say that that's what happened here, but yeah, it was nice to see, the parents learn that Matthew faked this footage, and they don't. I mean, I'm sure there was some angst happening, but they appear to try to mend the family relationship.
Yeah. Well, and what they say is, go ahead.
Ray comes back around. Like at first they say, "Oh, I can't trust you anymore,"
Yeah.
but then he comes back and they seem to have some connection. So like there is some element of it's your first time living, so we're gonna second chance.
Yeah,
the thing
that I like about the way that the family handles Matthew's faking is that like basically that all seems to get out that it's fake, because what happens is the reason that Matthew kind of starts faking the footage is because like the first thing that happens is that someone who's at the dam, not Lake Mungo. This is the confusing thing about this movie. She doesn't drown in Lake Mungo.
Yeah.
That they're at the reservoir where she drowns. They take a photo, and in the background of that photo is what looks like Alice. And we find out later it was Matthew wearing Alice's jacket in some, was he there to fake an Alice sighting? Probably not. He was just there wearing his sister's jacket, being sad boy or whatever. And what ends up happening is another video from that same day surfaces, and you can clearly see that it's Matthew from another angle, and the fact that he never said anything about this, obviously opens it up, and then his parents are just like, "You need to tell us if you've done anything else," and he's like, "Yeah, it's all fake.
I did a lot of things.
So it's all fake."
Yeah.
Which I think is, it's again, and then he tries to explain his reasoning and all these sorts of things. But yeah, the way that they're just like, because it was public, because it came out publicly, their first instinct as parents are to protect him. That's the thing that they say. They say, the first thing we had to do with this public attention on us all of a sudden is figure out how to protect Matthew, protect the family. Which is, maybe not something that they would have done before, but now they have this appreciation for what it means.
Yeah. Yeah.
So I guess the last little bit of things we'll talk about real quick is the ghost stuff.
Yeah.
So the ghost stuff is the reveal at the end of the ghost stuff. I love it. It's one of my favorite parts of the movie because, like I said, they've essentially debunked the ghost stuff. They do one more set of footage that they claim Matthew couldn't have faked, and it's footage of Alice standing over the bed. And that footage is sort of given credence as being real because June reads a diary entry in which Alice describes standing over her parents' bed, and it's this, heart-wrenching moment of like loss of innocence where Alice is like, she has a dream, she needs her parents, she goes into their room, and as she's standing over them, she realizes that they can't help her, that she is so far gone, and this includes the Tui stuff and everything, and this is post Lake Mungo, I believe, that she's past their ability to protect her. And she's described standing over their bed, and some of the footage they catch while Matthew is away is of this spirit standing over their bed or by their bed.
Additionally, that was the same encounter that June's nightmare was, right? Just from Alice's perspective, right? Because Alice standing over the bed, because she talked about something.
Yes, that she feels Alex standing over the bed. It's cold. She doesn't want to open her eyes.
Yeah, and June says she's dripping.
Yeah.
So
yes, and they do that a couple of times.
Yeah.
And in the big final moment of the movie, the final sort of supernatural moment of the final like, emotional part of the movie is, Ray's thing is he does a hypnotic regression thing where he has you stand at the front door of your house and go inside, and you tell him what you see. And he's done this with Alice, and he's doing this with June again one last time. And June is describing going into the house, and she goes into Alice's room, and Alice isn't there, and she leaves, and Alice is months and months before is having her regression, and in hers, her mom comes into the room, doesn't notice her in the room, and the mom leaves the room. So they have this from two different perspectives, this same event, which will pay off at the end of the movie, which we'll talk about in a second. So yeah, the ghost stuff, the sort of final reveal of the ghost stuff, I love it. because it's been there the whole time, right? So the image that Matthew fakes, he takes the same picture of their backyard. So he has this excuse of why he's taking this picture, because just every month he takes this picture of their backyard. It's a photography project that he's doing, and he superimposes Alice into one of them. But in that same photo, far off to the side on a bench, we can see Alice sitting. And this movie, when it wants you to doubt, when it wants to be ambiguous, it removes the detail. And when it wants you to be like 80% sure, it reinserts the detail. So there are certain images where it wants you to doubt what you're seeing. Some of the early images of Alice, they're specifically they just look like smudges.
Yes, which I found really annoying. Like when this ended, I said to you, we can call this suggestibility, the movie. Like a lot of them, right. I would not have said, oh, that's a face, unless you told me. I mean, what is it? Humans are hardwired to see faces.
Exactly. Pareidolia. And that is exactly what the director has said, that he is, in those moments, he is trading on pareidolia. It's because, again, this is a horror movie for which the ghost part is completely unimportant. It's a fun additional layer, but it's completely unimportant whether or not you believe it's Alice or not. But when they want you to really believe it, the detail is there. So the zoom in on the photo, the backyard photo, you can very much see that it's Alice. They do a reveal that at his birthday party in the dark, she is in the hall watching, and they have a couple other little reveals in there. And the sort of ending of this movie, this ties into the one of the ghost photo reveals. The ending of the movie is the family. So they find this footage, and the Lake Mungo footage is like the haunting moment of this movie. Alice is at Lake Mungo, and she sees something in the distance, and it's coming towards her, and she's going towards it or whatever. And the final frame on her video or whatever is a very close likeness of her drowned corpse face. So like she came face to face with her own dead corpse.
Self. It was very much like the bent neck lady in Haunting of Hill House.
Yes, and I believe that has been cited as an influence. And the family returns from this trip where they find this footage, and somehow it's, so the footage is unexplainable, but the dad recognizes it immediately as her dead body. And somehow that brings Russell some level of closure, and that knowing that she had sort of foreseen her fate and buried these precious objects, it somehow leads the family to a sort of they come back they almost don't try to explain it. They just say that they came back from Lake Mungo feeling like a weight had been lifted, like Alice had she had her say, and that they could start to move past the grief.
And the house is calmer, they said.
And the house feels calmer, feels quieter. And the movie ends with the family moving out. Interspersed with this is when we get the Alice and June readings, where June comes into the room and Alice is there, but she can't see Alice, and Alice, watches her mother leave the room. And they do sort of a mimic of that scene as June is doing a final walkthrough. She walks into to Alice's empty room and then back out. And they pack up and they take one last photo in front of the house, and then they leave. And the slow zoom on the end, and again, this one is meant to be as ambiguous as possible. Because again, the thing to remember, and that's why I said I think maybe I don't know, on a second watch where you don't care as much about the ghost stuff, maybe you would enjoy this movie more. They do a slow zoom in to the window of the house, and there is maybe an Alice spirit standing in the window, which to me when you have really sort of taken this movie at face value and watched it, it is gut-wrenching in the end, because their grief was keeping Alice's spirit alive. They could see Alice in the house in these real photos, the ones that are purported to be real, because of their grief. Their grief was keeping her there, not keeping her there, allowing them to hear her noises, catch her in the birthday footage, and she's there experiencing their life with them, even though they're not really able to see her or know that she's there for sure. She's in this house. Her spirit is in this house, trapped maybe, but it's in this house. And when they move past their grief, they can't see her anymore, but she's still there. And so when they leave the house to move on, she's still there, and they've moved on to a new life beyond their grief. And her memory, her spirit is forever trapped in this house for all eternity or whatever. And that, when you think about it that's when I talk about existential dread, and like just this idea that the thing that keeps your memory alive are the people who remember you. The thing that keeps you alive are the people who remember you, the stories they tell about you, the things that they do. So her memory is going to be alive wherever the family goes, but her spirit is actually trapped in this house with a new family for who, with a new experience, whatever the case may be. And like, just thinking about that is like, hurts my brain.
Why would it be trapped in that house? Because one of the tropes that you often see in ghost stories is that ghosts are tied to where they died.
Sure.
So why would she be tied to the house? Because that's not where she died. So I would think she's either at the reservoir or she is sort of following her family wherever they go. But trapped in the house doesn't make sense.
So first of all, I think they trapped her in the house. Their grief and their memory. And when they leave the house, they leave that grief behind. And that grief is what tied her to them and tied her to that house. And then when they left. So first of all, this is like, think about this however you want. I think the question that you just asked is like way too logical to ask. Because I think they tied her to that house. Their grief, her life there, her experiences there, tied her to that house. And they tied her to that house. It's possible that their inability to grieve her properly drew her spirit to that house. It's possible that that's just how ghosts work. Maybe ghosts don't all have to be where they died. Maybe they are, where they choose to be.
Yeah. I don't know. That seems to imply that they all just one day, all at the same time, stopped grieving, and that's why she was stuck. And I don't think grief works that way.
Well, but the movie explicitly tells you that they feel a weight lifted.
Sure, but that's different than grief stops. I don't know.
I don't mean that their grief stopped, went from 100 to 0. I mean that throughout this movie, we're shown a family that is struggling with processing grief. And through the events that happen at Lake Mungo, they start the process of, in a much more healthy way, processing that grief. They are all processing the grief in an unhealthy way. But don't think so literal about it, right? Like, it's more of like, the only thing that's left of her are memories. And when you leave the place where most of your memories with that person occur, you leave those memories there. So whether she's a ghost or just whether she's a sentient ghost or it's just the imprint of the memories that happened there, right? You're leaving that behind regardless. When our dog Otis died, we left those memories of him, some of them forever, in that house that he died in. So whether or not he died in that house or he died in another, we left some memories of him in our apartment. We've left memories of previous pets in the places that we experienced them. We've left memories of previous loved ones in the places that we experienced them. So even if it's not a sentient ghost, it is memories. It's the things that led you to love that person and feel an attachment to them. And even though you know that you're going to keep that with you when you go, you're still leaving a part of it behind, because her mother will never walk into that room again and never see her room again. And on some level, there is some part of Alice that is still there, that, she has this premonition of watching her mother walk into the room and not see her and walk out of the room. So there's, the movie is telling us that some part of Alice is left behind. And that's the part for me that, that gets my brain really working, firing on all cylinders, of like, just this idea that little bits of you can get left behind, and that those bits, like, imagine for a second that those bits are manifest as a spirit, and then those bits are stuck there, whether they're, because maybe had the family stayed there, that those memories would have persisted. Maybe they wouldn't have, maybe they would have dissipated, who knows? But like, the Alice that's in the backyard picture is just sitting on a bench watching. She's just kind of observing them. And that can be the other thing too. Like, ghosts are attracted to people. Ghosts are drawn to people. And, again, ghosts aren't real, but, they talk like as crazy as the movie is, Poltergeist 2 talks about how the spirits that are left behind in Poltergeist 1 attach themselves to Carol Ann, and they essentially moves with her. Is it Hill House? Those ghosts are attached to the house, but they're also attached to the people, so that they start having visions of the ghosts, even though they're not at the house. So the rules of ghosts are whatever you want the rules of ghosts to be.
Yes, similar to Dracula.
Yes,
there's no one set.
The rule of Dracula's are whatever you want them to be. So anyway, but that's why I get with this movie, right? Because there's the idea of having a vision of your own death and how that affects the way that you act in life. And there's also this idea of, Alice is very good at masking all of the, like, she is almost certainly clinically depressed, but like, depression is not always, I can't get out of bed. Sometimes
right.
it's the moments that you don't see. And some people with depression become so good at, think about Robin Williams. There isn't a person alive who wouldn't have said, but he's always so happy. Every time he's on television, every time he's in an interview, every time the paparazzi photograph him, he is so excited to be alive. But that is a show that you put on, and Alice was very good at that. And I think she learned that from her mother, who learned that from her mother, this idea of putting on this show, keeping up appearances. And she was so good at that. She had this massive double life. She had this vision of her own death. All of her friends describe her as outgoing and happy and fun. And she was, in reality, none of those things. But she convinced everybody around her that she was. And I think that's the thing that when you watch this movie and you forget about the ghosts and you just watch these people starting to understand that the face that someone shows you isn't their real face, and that they were happy to accept that face from Alice, because the reality of digging deeper would shatter their idea of who she was. They're then left with no choice but to dig deeper and have their preconceptions of who she was shattered because of her death. And I just think that that's the stuff that is the most interesting about this movie. The exploration of who we are and the faces that we show people, and how depression manifests, and how people hide its manifestations, and how families look happy but are dysfunctional on some level, even if it's not, flowers in the attic type VC Andrews type dysfunction.
Mm-hmm.
That's the stuff that makes me enjoy this movie. And it's that horror of like the everyday, just the emotions that we can all understand. We can all understand what it's like to keep a secret. We can all understand what it's like to put on a happy face when you aren't actually happy. And that's the stuff that gets me. And watching the parents come to these realizations, and watching the parents understand the roles that they did or didn't play in Alice's life, watching the brother, cope in his weird way, watching Ray, who has convinced himself that he's a net positive on the world despite being a fake psychic, watching all the friends and family sort of come to this realization. I mean, that's the stuff that I find the most interesting about this movie. And then the ghost stuff is just cool at the end. Like the first time I watched this movie, the reveals at the end were like shivers, like, because if you watching the movie again, she's there all those times.
Mm-hmm.
She's always there. They didn't cheat it, which I was so glad they didn't. They didn't cheat it. In the opening of the movie, when they show the family photo in front of the house, that smudge is in the window. When they show the birthday footage, she's there. When they show the picture in the backyard, she's there. She's in all of those places. And again, people just didn't see the real Alice, and we don't see the real Alice when we're shown all these images. And that's just like chef's kiss. Like, she was right there, and we didn't see her because we were looking at the fake version of her. We were looking at the fake ghost in the backyard photo. So we missed the real Alice,
Okay. Well,
and now that's my TED talk on Lake Mungo.
Well, like I said, suggestibility, the movie.
Sure. And that's why I say, so the second time through, I came closer to having like the spiritual experience that a lot of people say this movie is. You're, to being on that Jordan Peele favorite horror movie, Mike Flanagan top 3 horror movies, kind of thing of like, okay, I see sort of the hidden brilliance of this movie. I see the things that are, and have to say, this movie feels 100% authentic. Like, from my watching of it, these seem like real people. These seem like real interviews. The way, even the minor characters, like the coworker of Russell's, their speech patterns have a genuine cadence to them. You can see that, and a part of this is how they shot it. They actually didn't have lines. They had like ideas of like, this is what your character knows, and this is what your character's willing to say, and stuff like that. Watching them, Russell is especially good at it. Watching them, you can see in the Russell interviews, you can see his actor actually thinking about what to say next. And it doesn't look like he's acting like he's thinking. It really looks like he is really thinking about what to say next. And I just love that. And the style of it, and I think the cadence of the way it builds. I think the only thing that you could lose from this movie and really not have a lot of loss is the Tui neighbor subplot. I think that drives home the idea that Alice had this secret life. But I think like the Ray reveal and the diary and the Lake Mungo footage all could kind of drive home that same point. But then also that is like, it's a gut punch in the middle of the movie to be like, oh God, like this was, and then you are meant to think like, was this actually consensual? We don't know, because we can't really tell. Like, is she high? Is she drunk? We don't know from the footage, and you can't know. And the only people who are going to be there to give evidence, if they can even find them, because they sell their house and move away,
they're pieced out,
are the neighbors who did this. So, and the police even tell Russell at some point, or June, even if we find them, they're just going to say it's consensual, in which case we can't really do anything, which is crazy. But yeah. So anyway, yeah, Lake Mungo.
Yeah. Okay. Well, I don't know. Yeah. This did not fulfill your expectation of me doing more talking. Sorry.
I'm sorry. Yes, it did. Yeah. Like I said, I thought there were things, I thought you might have some things to say about the neighbor stuff. I thought you might have some things to say about the relationship. But again, like if you watched this movie distracted by the fact that whether or not the ghost stuff was real, and how easy it would be to, how it's like just pareidolia and all that, I can understand why some of the other emotional, beats of this movie wouldn't be there, because you'd just be like, I don't know, they keep showing this stupid ghost footage.
I don't know. I think, again, I don't like ambiguity.
I
don't know. I every time I say that, I feel like I must be very square and boring and not very smart, and but like whatever.
Not very smart. Come on.
I don't know. It feels very anti-intellectual to be not a fan of ambiguity, but whatever. It is what it is. I don't know what to tell you. So, anyway, folks, we would love to know what you think of Lake Mungo. I don't know. Is it your favorite horror director's favorite movie? Do some research. Write to the fan club.
Yeah.
To the Ari Aster fan club using your membership number.
Yeah.
And stationery. And
weirdly enough, this movie also Alfred Hitchcock's favorite horror movie.
I bet that sounds like he's
yeah. Just put that on the box. Alfred Hitchcock's favorite horror movie.
Yeah, but he doesn't do the cameo in this one.
Boris Karloff.
Yeah,
loved this movie.
Anyway, we would love to know what you think. You can get in touch with us in a couple different ways. You can send us an email at ysmypodcast. That's ysmy for you, show me yours, at gmail.com. We're at Facebook on this with the same handle. You can DM us, or you can find our feed where we list links to our latest episodes and other fun things that we find. For example, a link to the Alfred Hitchcock fan club, where they talk about these things. Yes. This has been in October. We were doing the Spooktacular, doing a new episode every week, but next time we'll be back to our regular cadence of every other Wednesday. So 2 weeks from today, no matter when you're listening, there'll be a new episode. Next time I am hosting, and it's November, it's chilly, it's fall, which to me is the season to watch My So-Called Life. So that's what I'm going to show Dave. When we've done TV shows before, we just do the first 2 episodes and talk about whatever happens in those episodes. In the past, I think we've been lucky and it's been a 2-hour pilot. This time, not so much, but we'll talk about My So-Called Life and the fact that I now relate to the parents more than teenagers, which breaks my heart a little bit. But, stuff happens. Also, Jordan Catalano, he leans great. Really. You don't get that reference, do you?
I don't
heartbreaking.
Sorry.
Okay. Well, we will get Dave up to date with all the Jordan Catalano references, and that'll be next time. In the meantime, this has been You Show Me Yours. Thanks for listening. Bye.
Bye.